Italien experimentiert mit der flächendeckenden Einführung der 5G-Technologie.
Pochi giorni fa il governo della Louisiana ha chiesto al proprio Dipartimento di Salute Pubblica di produrre entro i prossimi 2 mesi uno studio sui rischi sanitari del 5G, perché studi peer reviewed su questo argomento suggeriscono la possibilità di numerose conseguenze sanitarie. A Toronto numerosi esperti di salute pubblica hanno discusso questo argomento lo scorso 31 maggio nell'ambito del Wireless Technology Symposium, e ricordando che scienziati di 42 diversi paesi stanno avvertendo già da tempo i propri governi sui rischi sanitari e che a questi si sono aggiunti i medici canadesi. 240 diversi scienziati di tutto il mondo hanno sottoscritto una richiesta di moratoria e lo Scientific Committee on Health, Environmental and Emerging Risks, un comitato scientifico consultivo della Comunità Europea, ha identificato il 5G tra i 14 massimi fattori di rischio emergenti per la salute e per l'ambiente.
Le valutazioni, poi gli studi pubblicati hanno dimostrato che studi ben condotti come quello di Ardel hanno assolutamente confermato il rischio di cancro, gliomi, meningiomi e via dicendo. Come mai lo studio Interphone condotto con questi metodi che vi ho detto non ha evidenziato nulla? Ecco, i finanziatori dello studio Interphone sono le compagnie telefoniche.
Gli effetti sull'uomo sono dovuti a un meccanismo fisiopatologico principale, che è quello dello stress ossidativo, che determina un'alterazione strutturale delle cellule. Sono molto ben documentati gli aspetti oncologici, sono stati prodotti tutta una serie di lavori scientifici che hanno messo bene in evidenza come l'esposizione cronica alla radiotelefonia può determinare tumori cerebrali, può determinare tumori del nervo acustico, può determinare anche danno alle ghiandole parotidi, come anche all'apparato riproduttivo.
Da tempo l'ISDA ha ingaggiato una battaglia nazionale chiedendo il coinvolgimento del Ministero della Salute, battaglia che prosegue anche in Sardegna.
Siamo rivolti anche all'assessore all'ambiente perché prenda atto di questa situazione in Sardegna. Ci ha risposto con un'apertura e con un incontro e a un dibattito e quindi attendiamo la sua convocazione.
Se si conoscono i pericoli si possono adottare misure di protezione, ma se noi adottiamo queste tecnologie al buio non siamo in grado di assumerci nessuna responsabilità nel settore della protezione della salute, quindi è estremamente necessario che prima di avanzare con questa tecnologia in maniera definitiva, e fra l'altro ritengo che fra 5 anni magari non sarà più neanche un 5G, ma sarà un 6G, un 7G, un 8G, non le so dire che cosa, però sempre con frequenze così alte, quindi lo studio diventa ancora più necessario. Ecco, per arrivare ad adottare misure cautelative veramente efficaci, noi abbiamo bisogno di conoscere.
Da quant'è che noi siamo esposti ai cellulari? Da non oltre 20 anni. Allora, dobbiamo aspettare che queste radiofrequenze diano degli effetti conclamati a livello epidemiologico? Io direi di no. Direi di cominciare a fare delle considerazioni serie su questo tema e di evitare gli errori del passato. Questo, che è un piano un po' catastrofico, pubblicato, cosa sottolinea? Sottolinea che, come diceva Martucci prima, saremo tutti esposti, anche l'ecosistema, nessuna persona, nessun animale, quando si introdurrà la tecnologia 5G, potrà essere esente da questo irraggiamento.
Come Associazione Italiana Elettrosensibili ci appelliamo anche al Presidente della Repubblica affinché venga tutelata la nostra salute.
Una fonte di alte frequenze che rischiano di interferire su tutti i tessuti e su tutti gli organi e sulle cellule, non solo degli adulti ma anche dei bambini e appunto dell'embrione e del feto.
Hello, I'm with Barry Trower, the renowned British physicist and microwave weapons expert, who has, in the course of a very long and very varied career, worked with the British Royal Navy and the British Secret Service, and is the leading world expert on microwave radiation. Thank you, Barry, for this opportunity to tap into your very great knowledge, and particularly to examine exactly what it is that's going on with 5G. And to launch straight into that question, I would like to ask you the following. As I understand it, with 5G, we are faced by a quite extraordinary increase in intensity of electromagnetic microwave transmissions when compared with the already dangerous 2, 3, and 4G levels that make up the current Wi-Fi and cell phone electro-smog fields. Can you explain, in short, the main difference between, say, 3G, 4G, and 5G?
5G has a higher frequency. You will need a transmitter every 150 meters, which is virtually on every lamppost or every tree. 5G has been shown in very recent history to be particularly more dangerous, even in areas where it has been set up. In one report around a transmitter, they found around 100 birds had died. In another transmitter, they found cattle that had died. It is a particularly dangerous frequency because of its high resonance. What I'm saying is that mathematically it is so complex that nobody can actually predict the harm it's going to cause. Even the people who have made it can't predict the harm it's going to cause. Mathematically, it is a nightmare. One thing that interests me is that the upper end of the 5G scale is actually so close to the new weapons frequency. There is a new weapon which its nickname is the Growler. It can be sent from aeroplanes or vehicles. And the Growler is used to destroy the neurological and physiological systems in the body very, very quickly.
This is used for crowd control.
Crowd control, or if you have an enemy, or so in one hand you have the industry saying that, well, they won't say it's safe, they will say we have not found any harm. But on the other hand, it is being used as a weapon, and of course the two are incompatible. You can't have something which you can show to pregnant women or children and allow them to use it, and in another use it for crowd control. And to say that the powers are different is absolute rubbish, because with all microwaves, a long low dose can be equally, even more dangerous than a short high dose. So 5G is a nightmare. Already we are getting instances of I think it's 70% less production of fruit, 60% decrease in insects that pollinate trees. It is suspected of already killing cattle and birds, as I've said. But the main problem, as I see it, and it isn't 5G, it is with the other Gs as well, but 5G is going to be much worse because it's going to blend in with the Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is a known, proven, and used weapons frequency. Shall I just carry on? Yes, okay. This is quite a long question, but it's very important for Poland. I'll leave the weapons out for a minute. The problem, that, as I see it, for Poland and countries that have huge forests, it is known and documented that, especially with 5G added into Wi-Fi, but with Wi-Fi on its own, 5G is going to make this worse. It is known and documented that in 3 generations of humans, only 1 in 8 children can expect to be born healthy. 1 in 8, if at all. It is published that with plants and animals, depending on the reproductive cycle, some species will be totally extinct within 5 generations. That's been published. So what you have is the total destruction and loss of Poland, without a shadow of a doubt. That is published, and it is provable. And one of the other main problems, which is going to carry on, people underestimate how clever and how useful trees are. Now, trees communicate with each other via their roots within the soil. They join roots, they help feed each other. If one tree cannot get enough sugars, they will help photosynthesize the others. They also help control the microorganisms in the soil. Trees also take out a lot of carbon dioxide from the air, and trees do not like microwaves. And you will find the resistance of trees going down as soon as you microwave them. But the other thing is, and not a lot of people appreciate this, if you have inland fish or fish in huge lakes or inland fish, around 70% of a fish is tree. People find that hard to believe because the trees shred their leaves, they go into the streams, they are acted on by microorganisms, they wash down into the water, the microorganisms feed other microorganisms, you start the food web, the fish feed off that, and in fact 70% of a fish is actually tree, from a tree, through the food web. Now, if you destroy the trees, you destroy the fish and the ground soil. But it gets even worse. When you have long, hot summers, trees produce a chemical of molecules which go into the sky. These molecules blend with water vapor in the air, which form larger molecules. And they actually form very whispery, small, loose-fitting clouds. But a whole forest will do this all at once. How the trees communicate isn't known. But it is known, and it is measured, that on very hot days, to protect themselves from overheating, trees will release these molecules and you will get whispery clouds above your forests and that provides shade which keeps the trees alive. The trees take out the carbon dioxide. Now, if you destroy the trees or you make the trees sick, you get extra carbon dioxide going into the water. The water has microorganisms on its own called coccolithopores. And coccolithopores produce a chemical called dimethyl sulfide. The dimethyl sulfide goes into the air and is the only substance on the planet known which can be used in cloud formation. So if you follow the cycle, if you make the trees sick, which you will do, then you kill your fish, you kill the coccolithopores, who are very low intolerant to carbon dioxide in water because it makes it acid. They are already in the process of dying and changing the cloud structure. So just by affecting the trees that people think are just trees, you actually destroy the fish, you destroy the ocean microbiology, and you change the planet's weather. And there is one more piece of information on this. It has been found and published. And I did have it explained to me by a professor sitting where you were a few months ago, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. But bacterium and viruses seem to thrive on microwaves. So they become resistant to all the treatment to try and kill them. They seem to think, hello, we're in danger, we will multiply more quickly. And he did tell me the process, but it wasn't within my knowledge to understand it. But bacteria thrive. So this is why when you microwave plants and trees, and you have huge forests in Poland, within the span of a few generations, you are going to lose your forests, your fish, your plants, your pollinating insects, and your children. And it is proven, and I have the documents, you can expect only 1 in 8 children to be born healthy. And I'm sorry it's such a long answer, but 5G is going to exacerbate this, make it much, much worse, because the trigger for this was really Wi-Fi. When Wi-Fi came out, 1999, 375 huge companies used the Wi-Fi frequency, which is a known weapons frequency. That was really the trigger. 5G is going to make this worse.
Well, so basically this is a war, a weapon of war, as you've pointed out. It cannot be compatible with a healthy lifestyle, so that's the first point. The second point about the trees, of course, is extremely alarming. I suddenly got the message from Einstein, Albert Einstein, who I believe said if we lose the bee population, the planet will be in very serious trouble. I immediately make a correlation there between what you're saying about the insect population.
I have twice presented, we have a festival here. We have a festival here, the Glastonbury Festival. I have twice presented the environmental lecture to the Glastonbury Festival. One of them was on what I've already been talking about. The other was on bees. My bee lecture is on the memory stick, which if you can download it, my bee lecture is on there. And yes, it is well documented, well understood that you will lose the bees from microwaves.
So this has been carefully avoided, talking about microwaves in relation to bees. We've heard about pesticides, we've heard about many things, but they've always steered clear of suggesting that microwaves might play a part in this. One other anecdotal piece of information concerning trees is that we've heard very recently that in England, where they are attempting to introduce the first experimental use of 5G on lampposts in cities like Gateshead, for instance, and I understand in Bournemouth, possibly other places, they're actually clearing trees. I think possibly in Sheffield, actually. They're actually clearing trees from towns because they might interrupt the signal.
That is correct, and they're also finding that insects are leaving the area. And in fact, it's not just bees, and for any scientists watching this, I'm talking about the cryptochrome pigment with the double electron absorption navigation system that insects, arthropods have, commonly known as creepy crawlies to most people, all flying insects, and they are responsible for pollinating 80% of the world's food, and we are destroying them in droves.
You know, the information so extreme, so profound, so absolutely vital that I hope the audience is going to listen to this film at least twice in order to be able to take in the level of significance that you're describing. I understand that 5G operates on millimeter wave frequencies, very, very fast, short ones. You will describe that more accurately, I'm sure. Can 5G be used to specifically and even accurately target individuals, for instance, or cars or houses or even rooms within a house? In other words, that means, could it be used as a psychotronic weapon for population control?
Yes, it could, but you wouldn't need to, because it would do it anyway. The problem is all living matter, every single cell in every single living thing on the planet produces its own little waves around it. And all of the, it's difficult for people to understand, but every single cell in our body can communicate with every other cell in the body. The whole body is one big chatterbox of components talking to each other. And in an adult, you have around 10,500 biological structures which all talk to each other. And you produce a wave or a field, I won't get too technical here, around your body. There are people who claim to be able to see this field, and I believe they can. Yeah, and if anybody wants to see or demonstrate this field, it's very easy. All living things have it. Just take two ordinary eggs. Take two ordinary eggs, put them on a shiny surface, and put them end to end. If they stick, turn one around, and you'll find that they will fly apart. Because the fields will either attract or repel each other like magnets. And every living thing has this field. Microwaves will come in and disrupt this field. That is one effect. The other effect, which is what I was involved in the Cold War, were the pulse frequencies. Now, you have clocks in your body, generally regulated by the hypothalamus, but you have clocks that monitor different parts of your body and regulate hormones and all sorts of other things. You also have structures, tiny molecule structures, which vibrate. Now, when microwaves go in, the pulse frequencies, they can change these clocks, and they can change the rate that the hormones or anything is moving in the body. They can also, the word is resonance, they can also cause resonance in other parts of the body. Now, you have circadian resonant frequencies, and you have cyclotronic resonant frequencies. And you can grow in and out of these. So when an organ, let's say like the heart, is growing, when it is a particular size, it will meet the microwaves or the pulse frequencies, and it's like if you have a spinning top and then you just give it a little nudge and a little nudge, or you're on a swing and then you just lift your legs and you keep the swing going, and then you can make it go higher and higher. Microwaves can do this to the clocks and to the organs, and unbalance them and make them malfunction. Now, you can grow into this and you can grow out as the organ or the body or the cell changes size. And it is known to date that women have 13 different circadian resonant frequencies than men. So you could have a lady sitting in a room saying, I'm getting funny hearing, or I'm picking up voices, or I'm getting an irregular heartbeat, or something's going wrong. And the man could be saying, don't be stupid, go and see a doctor. Whereas in fact, she is picking up, or it could be a child, and the most susceptible human forms is the embryo within the first 8 weeks of pregnancy. That is very susceptible. So when I was talking to spies in the Cold War, for the years I did it, the spies that were using microwaves as weapons, I made a list of probably 30 or 40 frequencies that were known and used in the Cold War, mostly by the Soviets and the Americans, although we did as well, to cause cancer, neurological illnesses, drive people to commit suicide, breast cancer, that sort of thing. I had a list of 30 or 40 pulse frequencies which I collected from spies that would cause probably 50 or 60 neurological and physiological illnesses to the point of death. And several people have published this, the illnesses. I published the pulse frequencies. Today, I think the list stands at 750 pulse frequencies. 5G will make that much, much more. But it's not 750 where you get this or this. It is 750 factorial mathematically. That means you can have the effects of number 1 multiplied by the effects of number 2, number 3, right through 750. And some people who are electrosensitive and are having this affect them instantly, the symptoms are exactly the same as lead arsenide poisoning. You really just want to lay down and die. That is it. You really don't have the energy to move. And it is possible to change neurological structures and make people suicidal. And this is done both deliberately and accidentally. You will find around some transmitters, depending on what pulse frequencies they use, and they keep them secret, depending on what pulse frequencies, you will find mass suicides around some transmitters, 8 different types of cancers around others. You will find lots of varying symptoms, which are all known and predicted. But for the industry, for whatever reason, it is worth I think it now stands at it's 17, I was told $17 trillion that it's now worth. And it's worth losing up to 60% of the population for this amount of money. And it's as simple as that, really. And I have a document that actually says that people must be deceived to and the wording is people must really be deceived, although they've used slightly different wording, by saying you select a safety level that cannot be challenged in court when people die. And the actual wording is to protect industrial output, profit. So the whole list of illnesses, birth defects, stillbirths, miscarriages, they're all there. And the reason for all of this, and it was classified top secret and still is, but I have the documents, is protect industrial output. And all of this is to protect industry.
You know, Jadwiga Łopata, who's in the room with us today, and I were very involved in Poland in 2004 to 2006 in trying to prevent genetically modified organisms getting into the country. And we ran a campaign based on getting each Polish province to declare itself to be a GMO-free zone. We succeeded in this, and it led on to the chairman of each of those provincial boards to write to the Prime Minister and demand a ban of the import and planting of genetically modified organisms, and he actually did in 2006, which made Poland the first country in the world, I think, to ban GMO. But what I'm hearing from you is exactly the same message that we heard about GMO, which is that this is potentially an incredibly valuable, patented tool for, if you like, possessing other countries, challenging the existing status quo, dominating the marketplace, with something which is an entirely unnatural form, after all. So, as a further point to what you're actually saying already, would it be possible, for instance, to generate an artificial epidemic using 5G if you chose to do so?
Brilliant question. I have said, when I'm talking to countries, I have said that, and you've covered quite a few points there, sir. First of all, this isn't all over the world. I suspect from my travels that 58% of the planet are taking avoidance action to prevent this happening. I do know that when I talk to royalty and leaders of governments, leaders of peoples, in the last couple of years, 17 countries have started to take very serious avoiding action. 42% of the planet, to my knowledge, isn't. And they are putting this, and this is one of the countries, this is being really forced out, and it's going into nurseries, schools, houses, it's going everywhere, absolutely unrestricted. You can't complain about it. It's just going up 42% of the planet. So you do have an imbalance, and I have said, to answer your question, when you look at we know the uterus can absorb 20% more radiation plus than the rest of the body because of the moisture content. We know you can have 40% more damage in the uterus. We know that the uterus does not have they're called protein 53 and the nuclear core complex. The uterus does not have the immune system that adults have for defense against this. We know that within 15 days of the uterus, cells can be programmed to develop cancer. We know microwaves can produce cells to develop cancer, and I can run through the whole process. We know that the thymus gland, within the first 8 weeks of the uterus, can be destroyed, and the thymus is needed to develop the child's immune system up to adolescence. So, and we know it's been published. I saw the publication in many years ago. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. Can I just? Sorry. Sorry, I was being distracted. I read a paper that ladies who were exposed to a dose that an ordinary school child can get today in a hospital using a diathermy machine which used the microwave, the Wi-Fi frequency, and the machine malfunctioned, and the hospital staff from there, 47.7% of the staff had miscarriages in the first, I think it was 7 weeks of pregnancy. 47.7% of the grown-ups had miscarriages in the first 7 weeks of pregnancy. Now, knowing that children can absorb much more radiation than adults because of their size, they absorb more, they're nearer the wavelength, which is the resonant frequency. If you do the calculations, the 47% can become 67.7% of children having birth defects. And this is just from background. And this was published by the World Health Organization first. Recently, the European Academy for Environmental Medicine came up with a 48%, whereas I said 47.7 from the World Health Organization. It's 48%, the European Academy for Environmental Medicine. Now, if you add at least 20% for children, this is where you're getting your birth defect rate, where in 3 generations, just 50 to 60 years, only 1 in 8 of your children at this point in time can be guaranteed to be born healthy. And it's not children, it is all mammals. Because we all have the same genetic code. We have the same 4 chemicals. Any tree can read your DNA sequence. It won't do it any good, and it won't need to use it. But any tree, a blade of grass, can read your DNA sequence. We all have the same language, and all mammals will suffer this. So the 42% of the world where this is being forced out, and this is provable. It is documented. It was forecast way back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It was planned, documented, forecast, especially your big conference, which is top secret still to this day, in Warsaw in 1973. They listed, I think it was 300 pages of all the, and brought it down to 98 or 88 categories. The whole paper is top secret, and you're still not allowed to see it to this day. But in 1973, they predicted this, that your country would be destroyed from microwaves. It is known, the effect is known, it is happening, it is documented, and it is being forced out for whatever reason, and I'm not a politician, and this is, and your politicians do not know this. They do not have access to the documents I'm mentioning. Even prime ministers don't have access to the documents that exist.
Well, as I said before, this information is shocking beyond belief, and considering you just highlighted how in 1973 in Warsaw, at a high-level conference of which the papers have never been published, you can verify the fact that it was predicted that population of Poland itself will be literally wiped out over a period of time if this technology is taken further. Do you have a message for the government, for the Prime Minister, even for the people of Poland in this respect? In other words, they'll be interested, the people will be interested in how to stop it. The government may know nothing about it.
The message is in two parts. And I wish I were the one that were clever enough to think up what I'm going to tell you, but I wasn't. I was with the king. I was the guest of a king for 2 days, a very, very clever gentleman who had an international law degree. And we were discussing all of this, and he said that within 50 or 60 years, he would lose the viability of his country through all of these processes. He said, Barry, he said, in 50 or 60 years, I will lose the viability of my country. He also said that he gave me his personal telephone number, and he said, if you are talking to other kings or prime ministers, you can give them my telephone number. I will tell them what is going on and what are the consequences if they go ahead with letting all the microwaves in. I will tell them king to king. If they dial this number, I pick up the phone. That is one thing. And I carry this phone number wherever I go, but I'm only allowed to give it to leaders of peoples. The other thing is, when I go to a country, I say, put your very best opponents, the people who say I am wrong. I want you to line up your very best opponents, I don't care how many there are, get your best scientists, your best anybody, put them in front of me and tell me why I am wrong. That is my message. If you think I'm wrong, get me to your country, line up all your experts and let them tell me why I am wrong, and let me show you the documents I have and prove why I am right. And not only do I have to prove I'm right, I can point to your schools, your nurseries, your population and say, there is the proof. It's as simple as that. But the message is very simple. 58% roughly of the planet are taking avoiding action. 42 are not. You have a choice to be in one of those populations. If you want me to come to your country, I will come to your country. I work free of charge. I do not accept gifts. I have nothing to gain. In fact, I have everything to lose because I really don't like traveling. So I will come to your country, I will give you the proof, and you can then decide, and you can put any opponent up against me you like. But I can prove that what I say is correct. I have the government secret documents, and I will put them on your table.
You've mentioned on a number of times already that this information is published. This information is published. I think the audience will be very interested to know how one can access that information, apart from the fact that your information you're willing to put out, so to speak, freely to the public. What about all these other papers that have stated this right from the early point in the 1950s? Are they all top secret?
Yes, they're all top secret. When I say they're published, they are published within the governments that I have visited and spoken to. And I have this rule that I will answer any scientific question. You can ask me, and you can say, would you provide us with this proof? That's not a problem. But what I will not say is which government or which king or what country I have been to, and I will not discuss what questions I was asked. So if anybody asks me what did we discuss today, I will say that is confidential. I will talk about your country and answer your questions. So the papers have been published within the areas I have been, but they probably keep them to themselves for security reasons, or they don't want the country that published the paper to come in and have a diplomatic argument. So what I give the countries and what they do with them, but they are published within where I go.
Now, at least some people believe that 5G was developed in Israel, not that that's necessarily of critical importance, but that the Israeli government will not roll it out in Israel. Rather, Israel will develop a fiber optic version controlled entirely by the government and Israeli firms, with no foreign competition allowed in. Firstly, do you understand or believe this is correct?